So the next thing we want to do is add a handler for our photos so that we can add a photo. So let's go into our application folder, into the photos folder, and I'm just going to create a new C# class called add. And this is going to be a command handler, but we're sort of going to be pragmatic about the command handler in this particular case, and I'll explain what I mean. But we'll start out by using our snippet to create a command handler. And we'll bring in all of the usual suspects using mediator, using persistence, using system.threading.tasks and system.threading, and also the exception as well. And I'll just reformat. But in this particular handler, whilst normally we wouldn't return anything from a command, it's kind of essential from this one, because if I go back to our photo accessor again, what we're getting back from Cloudinary we cannot generate on the client. We can't get the URL that we get back from Cloudinary, we can't generate this on the client, nor can we generate the public ID on the client. Well, technically we could. Technically we could set this as a GUID and pass it up in the upload parameters, but since we're already getting the URL and returning this from our photo upload result, we might as well just use the public ID that Cloudinary generates and utilize that for our ID. But what this means is that we're going to need to send back a photo from our command handler so that our client has got access to the URL that Cloudinary has created plus the public ID as well. So what we'll do is we'll add a photo as a return type and add the photo here as well in the handler, and I'll actually need to bring this in from domain. And we also need to specify photo as returning a task of photo as well. And we won't be returning unit.value, but we will be returning a photo from this particular method. There's no real difference in mediator when it comes to this command and a query that we've been using. They're very similar in what we're doing here. And for the parameters, the only thing that we need to add in here is the iform file, and we'll call this file. And we also need to bring in ASP.NET Core HTTP. So let's head down to our constructor for our handler. And what we also need access to is the iUser accessor. And call it user accessor. And we'll also need access to our iPhoto accessor as well. And we'll call this photo accessor. And let's just bring in our application interfaces. And we'll just initialize these fields from parameter as well. And I'll just take out this dot because we simply don't need that in there. So let's implement the logic for this then. And what we want to do is first of all get our photo upload results. And we'll set this equal to our photo accessor, and we'll say add photo. And we'll pass in our request.file into this. Now this may or may not be successful. And if it's not successful, we don't actually want to go any further in this particular request. But we won't get any errors in what we get back from our add photo request. And as far as error handling goes, we're actually going to need to go back to our photo accessor. And before we return this new photo upload result, we do actually want to check to see if there's any errors inside the upload result itself. So what we'll do before we actually return our new photo upload result in our photo accessor, we'll check the upload results and see if there's anything inside the error. And if this is not equal to null, then what we want to do is just throw a new exception and bring in system, and we'll set the upload result to upload results.error.message. And that way, if something goes wrong in between adding the photo and storing it in this variable, then we're going to exit out of this handler and throw an exception back to the client. And on the basis that we go a little bit further, what we'll do is we'll get access to our user object. So we'll say user var user equals await, and context dot users dot single or default async, and we'll need to bring in Entity Framework Core, and then we'll just add our usual expression to get the user. So we'll say x.username is equal to useraccessor.getCurrentUsername. We then want to create a new photo object, so we'll say var photo equals new photo, and we'll add the URL, which is going to be equal to the photo upload result.url, and the ID will be equal to photo upload result dot public ID. What we'll also want to do is check to see if the photo or any photos inside the user's photo collection has been set to the main photo. If it hasn't, then what we'll do is we'll set this particular photo to be their main photo. So we'll say if and add the not operator user.photos.any, and we'll bring in system.link, and we'll say x goes to x.isMain. Then what we'll do is we'll say the photo.isMain is equal to true. Following this, then we need to save the photo into our user's photo collection. So we'll say user.photos.add and then pass in the photo. And then what we'll do, we'll stick with our var success equals await context save changes async. And because we have access to our user, we're getting our user here, and this is now being tracked by our context. So when we add this photo, now our user is being updated, and when we save our changes, this is going to save our user and the new photo into that user's collection. And of course, it's going to store this in the photos table. And if we get success, what we want to return is the photo. And we'll keep our exception in place as well. So this is all pretty straightforward, and what we'll take a look at next is we'll take a look at adding a photos controller for the API endpoints, and then we'll be able to test our photo upload is working successfully. And we'll take a look at that next.